Hi everyone. A very good morning to one and all, and a warm welcome to all the listeners of this video. Myself, I am V. Dinesh Babu from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Chebrolu Engineering College. So in today's session, we are going to cover the concepts on object-oriented programming. This is the third session. Before this session, a couple of sessions have been completed. In those two sessions, we have seen the topics which are related to interviews. At the same time, they are also some of the basics in Java programming language, what we have to know for sure. In the previous two sessions, we have seen 3 questions and solutions for those 3 questions. Name of the first question is Java an object-oriented programming language? Name of the second question is Java machine-independent programming language? And the name of the third question is, what is the need of creating an object in Java? For these three questions, we have seen the solutions. We have seen why Java is an object-oriented programming language, why Java is machine-independent, and the need of object in Java programming. So if any of you don't understand these 3 questions, you can see the last 2 sessions which are already kept in the YouTube channel of our college. So the links are the links will be in your student groups, student WhatsApp groups. So follow those 2 links. If you have any interest regarding those three questions or those 2 sessions, you can follow those 2 links. You can view at any time, 24/7. You can view those 2 sessions. At the same time, those 2 sessions may or may not ask in exams. That is not a problem. So the actual syllabus of this subject will start with this session. So I request each and every listener of this session and each and every student who wants to learn Java, who wants to get good score in Java programming language, they have to listen carefully. They have to practice each and every section carefully. They have to practice each and every example. So from today's class onwards, please be careful, right? Please be ready with your laptops or mobile phones, so that for each and every concept what I explain here, I will show one example. So listen to that example carefully and then practice the example, right? So from today's session, we are going to start our actual syllabus, right? So today we are going to start with the concept called as object-oriented programming concepts, right? So let us see what are the different topics we are going to cover in the coming sessions. I think these are the topics what I'm going to cover from now. I think this 1 hour of time is not enough to cover all these topics. So I will start I will start from classes, and based upon time, I will close today's session. And in the next session, I will start where I stopped in today's session. So from the next coming sessions, I am going to discuss about all these things. First one, I am going to discuss about what is a class and how it can be defined in programming languages. At the same time, I want to explain what is an object in Java and how objects can be created in Java, and what are the different uses of objects in Java. And after the completion of classes and objects, I'm going to discuss about inheritance, the definition of inheritance, and the types of inheritance. And along with that, I'm going to show some examples regarding classes, regarding objects, and inheritance, along with all the types of inheritance. So for each and every, there are 5 types of inheritances. For each and every type of inheritance, I am going to show one example. After the completion of inheritance topic, I am going to discuss about polymorphism, right? What is polymorphism and what are the different types of polymorphisms, and how that polymorphism is achieved in Java, right? So I am going to discuss about polymorphism and their types and their way of achieving them in Java programming language. After that, I'm going to show what is abstraction, and then I will show what is encapsulation and command lines in Java programming language. So let us start with classes. So before going to see about the classes, I want to refer the diagram what I have shown earlier in the first session, right? So I request all of you to please make use of a pen and paper while the lecture is going on. So please note each and everything what I am going to say, right? Please note each and everything. Please make a note of it so that it will be very easy while referring to the exams or while referring to an interview on Java. Keep one thing in your mind. Java is a very important programming language. As I said earlier, if you learn Java well, you will get a job on Java for sure. But only one thing is, you need to be very perfect in Java programming language, right? I also said that if you are perfect in C, then 30% of Java is completed, right? So please remember all the concepts of C programming language. Please keep all the concepts of C programming language in your mind and then listen to the Java programming language so that it will be very easy, right? So we can write sentences when you are perfect in alphabets, when you are perfect in words. So if you want to write some sentences, you need to be perfect in alphabets, words, and grammar. At the same time, if you need to be perfect in Java programming language, you have to know the programming basics. You have to know how to write programs in C programming language. You need to learn about object-oriented concepts. So with all these three things, you can write or learn Java programming in a very easy manner. So the slide what you are seeing on the screen, it was taken from the first session. So any programming language, if it wants to be an object-oriented programming language, it should support all the 6 concepts what you are seeing on the screen, right? So the names of the 6 concepts are object, class, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. We have already seen this slide in the topic of why Java is an object-oriented programming language. We came to a conclusion that Java is an object-oriented programming language because it supports classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. So here, in today's session, we are going to see from today's session. We are not going to complete in today's session because it will take a lot of time. I want to explain each and every topic with certain examples. So obviously it will take some time, right? So from today's session, we are going to discuss about all the 6 topics and their subtopics, right? So let us start with classes, right? Let us see the definition of a class. A class is a user-defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. It represents the set of properties or methods that are common to all objects of one type. So the meaning of this particular statement is a class is a user-defined blueprint. That means an user is going to define something based upon some rules. That means if you are sitting behind a computer system, so you will define a class with some certain rules. There are some rules in order to write the class. I will show it in the next slides. So you will write the class based upon those rules. That is why it is called as an user-defined blueprint, right? Next one. So let us see what a class actually contains. For each and every class, there are 3 parts: name of the class, variables of the class, and methods of the class, right? There are 3 parts for each and every class: name of the class, variables of the class, methods of the class. So here in the particular slide, here you can see person. That means it is name of the class. Here person is the name of the class, and then the things which are in the red color box are called as variables of the class, The other name for these variables is, we can call them as data members also, right? And the third part of each and every class is called methods. At the same time, we can also call them as functions. So a class is a user-defined blueprint. I'm going to extend the definition. A class is an user-defined blueprint which consists of three parts: name of the class, variables of the class, methods of the class, right? So coming to the name of the class, if we want to define the name of a class, we should start with a capital letter. If you observe, person, P is capital. So it is not a rule, it is by convention. Don't get confused. As I said earlier, class name should start with capital letter. It is not a rule, it is by convention. The meaning is, we may or may not use capital letter for the starting of a class, but in Java programming language, there are default classes. There are already existing classes in Java. All those class names are starting with capital. That's why it is better to use capital letter for as starting for each and every name of the class. It is better to use. You will not get any error if you use a small letter as starting name for the capital. But by convention, all the classes in Java are starts with capital letter. That's why I am suggesting you to write the class name where the first letter as capital. So at the same time, the class name should not have any spaces. Here we have defined the class name as person. If you observe, there are no spaces in that particular word, right? So only two rules are there for class names. Not two rules, only one rule, and the another one is convention rule. It should start with a capital letter and it should not contain any spaces, right? And then coming to the second part of a class, data members or variables. Here we use some keywords. For example, if we want to define integers, we use int x comma y comma z. I think everyone is familiar about what are integers, what are floating point numbers, what are characters, what are strings, right? We have already completed all these things in C programming language. Don't worry. And I will show all these concepts in the next coming sessions. Right now, just concentrate on the structure of a class. The structure of a class contains three parts: name of the class, variables of the class, methods of the class. Coming to the variables of the class, we will define some variables according to our need. If we want integer variables, we define them. If we want character variables, we define them. And then coming to the third part of the class, the third part of the class is called methods or functions. So what this method will contain in the sense, we have already seen call by value and call by reference concepts in C programming language. There we use methods, right? While we are discussing about the methods, it is said that a method has 4 parts: return type of the method, name of the method, parameters of the method, and method body. Here also, in Java programming also, we are going to use the same syntax. Each and every method should have a return type, name, parameters, and body. Please make a note of each and every sentence what I am speaking here. That's why I want everyone to note the things. That is why I am going a little bit slow, right? So please make note of each and every point what I am speaking here, right? So here, by default or by convention, we use small letters as a starting character for method names. While we are defining classes, we use a capital letter. And if we want to define a method, we use small letters. Right, next one. And it is an example program regarding a class, right? So see, a class, 1 second. It is a keyword. It should start with a small letter. This is the example regarding a class. Here, my class name is A. And if you want to define a class in Java programming language, you have to use a keyword called as class, followed by name of the class, right? And then we have to define the body of the class. Inside the body, we have variables and methods. Here, it is a keyword. What I am showing here, it is a keyword which is used to define class, right? In order to define a class in Java programming language, we use class keyword, and the name of the class is A. As I said earlier, by convention, use the name of the class starting character as A. Here there is no problem. We have only one character as the name. So here we are using that character in uppercase letter, that is capital letter. So class keyword, name of the class, and it is the body of the class. From this open braces to, sorry, I will show with, right, from this particular open braces to this closed braces, right? It is called as body of the class. All this part is called as body of the class. Inside the body of the class, there are two things: data members and then methods. Data members and methods. So in this program, in this example, I have shown only one method. Don't worry, we can have any number of methods. That's not a problem. So here, data members are nothing but variables, right? And one more thing, int is also a keyword. It should start with small letter. Void is also a keyword. It also should start with a small letter, right? So here, int a equal to 10, b equal to 20, and c equal to 30, right? These all are variables, right? And then we have a method called as void m. Void m. So here void means the thing which was underlined in blue color means it is a return type, as void says that this method is going to return nothing. Void is a return type. As I said earlier, every method should contain 4 parts. It is not mandate. Every method has 4 parts. Return type, first one, name of the method, and within the braces we have some parameters here. We have some parameters here. I will represent those with P. Right? This method do not have any parameters. There are 0 parameters for this method. And the things which are represented within these 2 braces, within the starting brace, the things which are represented in green color, right? So it is called as body of the method. So void is the return type of the method, first part. M is the name of the method, second part. And the things inside the braces are called as parameters. So there are 0 parameters, that is the third part. And from open braces to closed braces, it is called as body of the class, body of the method, fourth part of the method, right? So this is how we can define a class. A class is defined by using class keyword. It will have a name, and by convention, the starting character of the name will be capital. And class contains 2 parts, data members or variables, and methods. So method contains 4 parts, return type, method name, parameters, method body. Here void is the return type, M is the method name. The things inside these braces are called as parameters. There are no parameters here, 0 parameters here. And then these green arrows represents the body of the method, right? So now let us write the same program, right? Let us study about object, and then let us write the same program in Edit Plus software, and let us execute and see what will happen to this one, right? So I'm closing here, and then let us move to the next slide. The next slide, we are going to see about what is an object, right? So an object in Java is a space that is reserved in RAM for non-statical variables and methods of a class. We have already seen in the previous session what is the need of creating an object in Java. So if any of you have missed that particular session, please go through that session. Please study, please listen to that session. And I request all of you to know why we need to create Java in programming language. So the first point in this slide explains the need of creation of object in Java. An object in Java is a space that is reserved in RAM for non-statical variables and methods of the class. So if a class may contain static variables and static methods, non-static variables and non-static methods. Static variables and static methods means if there is static keyword while declaring variables or while declaring a method, then the variables and methods are called as static variables and static methods. If the variables and methods do not contain static keyword, then those variables are called as non-statical variables and the methods are called as non-statical methods. If you observe the last program, what we have seen as an example here, if you observe from the starting point of the program to the ending point, static keyword, we never found static keyword. According to our theory, if there is no static keyword along with the variables and along with the methods, then the variables are called as non-statical variables and the methods are called as non-statical methods. So for such type of methods, for such type of variables, in order to bring them into the RAM, we need to create an object. And object is called some space in RAM. If there is some space in RAM is called as object. So what we do with that space, we bring all these non-statical variables and non-statical methods of the class to that space. What is the need of bringing them into the RAM? Keep one thing in your mind. Your computer system or your mobile phone may have hundreds of photos or hundreds of videos or hundreds of apps. But if you want to see one photo, we need to bring that photo from your secondary storage to the primary storage. So the photo can be viewed by you only when it was brought to the main memory, that is called as RAM. So in order to see your photo, we are bringing them into the RAM. In order to listen a song, we are bringing the song into the RAM. We are not bringing internally. That will happen, that will be taken care by your computer system. So if you make a double click on a movie icon, that entire movie will be brought into the RAM and then that movie will be displayed over the screen. That means if anything wants to be displayed, that should be in the RAM. At the same time, in case of programming languages, if you want to execute a program, that program should be in the RAM. So that is why we are bringing all the non-statical variables and non-statical methods into the RAM. And in order to bring them, we need to create some space. And the creation of space is taken care by creating an object. And the creation of space is called as an object, right? And in real life, there is another definition for object. In real life, an object is called as an real-time entity. Real-time entity in the sense, what we can physically touch and feel is called as an object. Fan, it is an object. Bench, it is an object. Board, it is an object. So any real-time entity where we can touch and feel is called as an object, right? But in Java, an object is a space, is some space in RAM, which is reserved in order to bring non-statical variables and non-statical methods of a class. So why I am speaking about non-statical variables and non-statical methods? Because if there is static keyword before a variable or before a method, that static variable or static method is directly moved into the RAM for execution. If the variables and methods do not contain static keyword, they will not be moved into the RAM. So in order to move them into the RAM, we need to create an object. Now I think every one of you got some clarity regarding the classes and objects, right? So let us see one example. Here I have mentioned example number 2, and the example 1 is the definition of a class. I will show both of them at a time. Don't worry. So let us open Edit Place and see the examples regarding classes and objects. Right, this is the program what we have practiced in the previous session, the need of creating an object. So here I'm going to show a couple of examples. One is for class and another is for object, right? So as I said earlier, if you want to define a class, we have to use the class keyword, right? We have to use the class keyword. So it is edit plus. That's why when I enter class, automatically open braces and closed braces has been added. So for that class, you have to provide class name. For example, my class name is ECE. So here, as I said in the earlier, by convention, please make use of capital letters as starting character of the class name. By convention, it will work with when you use small e also, no problem. It is convention. So as I said, class contains three parts. Name of the class has been completed. And inside the class, we have to define variables. So I am defining some variables, int a equal to 20, sorry, int a equal to 10, b equal to 20, and c equal to 30. As it definition of variables is completed, end the statement with a semicolon. And then I'm going to write some method with the name m. So I'm here reflecting the same program what I have shown you in the slide, right? I am reflecting the same program. Class in the slide I have written class name as a. It is not a problem, but then in place of a, I'm going to use the class name as ECE. So void. So as I said earlier, method contains 4 parts. Return type of the method, that is void, and the name of the method is m, right? And parameters of the method, it is the third part, and then it is called as body of the method, what is highlighted in the blue color, body of the method. So inside the body of this method, I want to print the value of a, the value of b, the value of c on the output screen. So in Java programming language, if you want to print something on the output screen, there is one statement called as system.out.println. So system.out.println. So I want to print a, that's why I have used a here. Remember, system is name of a class, out is name of an object, println is name of a method. At the same time, I want to print the value of b. So even I can use print instead of println. The difference between these two methods is println will print the output in a new line, where the print method will print the output in the same line, right? And then I want to print the value of C also. So I am using system.out.printf. This function will also work. We all know, we all are very familiar with printf. We have used this printf, I think hundreds and hundreds of times while listening, while writing, while executing the programs in laboratories, while we are dealing with C programming language. So why printf is also working in Java is, Java is the programming language where the concepts, some of the concepts in Java are derived from C and C++. In C, if you want to print, we have to use the function called as printf. So here we can use even printf statement, printf function also in order to print some value on the output screen, right? Print ln will print the output in a separate line, new line. Ln means line, print line, next line. Print, it will print the output on the same line. Similarly, printf will print the output. This is what we have written. So saving the programs in Java is also very, very important. We have to save the program as, class name. Here in this program, we have only one class. That is why I am saving this code as class name, that is ece.java. We have to be very careful. Java is a case sensitive programming language. We have to use capital letters in place of capital, small letters in place of small. Vice versa is not possible. Vice versa in the sense, we are not allowed to use capital in place of small, small characters in place of capital characters, right? So save the program as ece.java. So this program has been saved in documents, right? So now let us move to the documents, right? Here it is, ECE, it is a Java file. So I want to, in documents, I want to create one more folder called as Java, because I want to write each and every program inside Java only, right? Let us change, let us save as, I want to save inside Java, ECE. So I am saving the programs inside Java because we need to work with, I need to write all the programs in the same folder. Yes. So ECE is a program, it is a Java file, right? Now let us keep these two things aside and observe what is going to be happen. For each and every programming language, first we need to compile and we need to run. So in order to compile, here we have to press Control+1. These things are already added in the previous session, and I will, don't worry, I will show those people who want to work with this Edit Plus. I will show how to link the compiler and how to compile Java program and how to run Java program by using Edit Plus. I will show how to link all these tools, compiler tool and running tool of Java to Edit Plus. I will show later. So just compile the code and observe what will happen if you compile the code. So there is some error here. So I think printf is not working in my browser. No worry. I will show the working of printf later in any other browser or in command prompt. So here I am changing it as println, right? Println. Now Now observe what will happen if you compile the particular code. Observe here, we have only one file and the type of the file is Java. Now compile the code and observe what will happen. I just compiled, it was compiled successfully. And if you observe in the LHS side, there is one more file added with the name ECE. But the extension of the file is class file. I think the people who listen to the last session or the previous two sessions will have an idea regarding this class file. This .java file contains high-level language. High-level language means this part of code. And when it is compiled, this Java file is going to be converted into class file, and this class file contains bytecode. Because of that bytecode only, Java language became machine-independent programming language. So for the people who don't listen to the last two sessions, please go through the last two sessions. You will have a better understanding regarding what is class file and what is Java file, right? So I compiled and I got some class file. So now I want to run this code. So when I run this code, it is showing some error. The error is there is no main method. The meaning of the statement is there is no main method in the program. So because of there is no main method in the program, we are unable to execute this program. So this is the program what I have written in order to explain how we can define a class, how we can define variables inside a class, how we can define methods inside a class. Now, because of there is no main method, we are not, the program is not going to be executed. So the main method in Java is public static void main, right? Void main string args. It is the main method in Java. So here I am going to write the main method in the same class. In the next session, I will show how to write the main method in the separate class. So here main method. So now try to execute the same code. I have saved the program and I compiled the program. Waiting for the reply. 1 second. I just compiled the program. As it is compiled successfully, there is no problem with that. And I want to run the program. So when I run the program, it is run successfully, but no output has been displayed. Why it is done? Because this block do not contain any code. For example, if I want to write your branch name, if I want to display your branch name on the output screen, I can write system.out.println ECE. Now save the code, compile the program, compiled successfully. Now run the program. So this particular output is showing ECE as output. So if you want understand better, just use println. As I said earlier, if you use print, it will print the output in the same line. If you use println means it will print the output in a separate line. So you can see here, ECE has been printed on the output screen. If you observe the entire program, here, ECE has been printed. At the same time, we have used the println statements for A, B, and C, but those things are not printed. Why this is happening in the sense, this particular statement is inside static block. That is why it has moved into the RAM directly and it got executed. But these things, there is no static keyboard here. There is no static keyboard here. That's why these are unable to print over the output screen. So here comes the concept of object. So these things are non-statical things because there is no static keyword before them. These things are non-statical. So in order to execute them, we need to bring them into the RAM. So before bringing them into the RAM, we need to create a space, and the creation of space is nothing but creation of an object. Here we want to create an object for class ECE. So the syntax of creating an object, class namespace, here my object name is 1 equal to, we have to use the new keyword while creating an object for class, any class, and class name. Now a space with the name 1 is created in the RAM, and inside that space the values of A, B, C and the M are saved. So if you want to execute M, we need to call 1.m. If you want to execute M, we need to call 1.m because that M is located in one space. So we have to give the complete path where that M is. That M is in one space. So we have to give 1.m. Now save the code, compile the program. One second. Compile the program. Once again, the system is little bit slow. It is successfully compiled. Now run the program and observe the output. So if you observe, the output of the code is ECE, and then we have called M. So M will print the value of A, and in the new line the value of B. Because we have used print, the next value will be printed in the same line. That is, the value of B and C will be printed in the same line. So the output is ECE, the value of A is 10, ECE 10, and the value of B and C are 20, 30. So the value of B and C are 20, 30. That's what it has printed. ECE in one line, 10 in another line, because we have used println for ECE and 10 A, and we have used print for B. That's why 20 is printed in the same line along with the 30. Right? So by writing this statement means we have created an object for ECE. So that brought the non-statical variables A, B, C and non-statical method M into the RAM. So only by bringing them into the RAM, we are able to execute. So this is how we can define a class, we can create an object, and we can call the methods based upon object. So with this, I'm going to close today's session, right? So if anyone is having the doubts regarding today's session, you can just comment in the comment box, or you can text me. So I will reply to you. Please keep one thing in your mind: study and learn, or listen and study and learn each and every minute thing of Java programming language. That will never be wasted. For sure, it will be helpful for all of you. Right? And in case of any queries, please comment in the comment box or text me. And I thank each and every listener of this particular video. And I hope you all got some enough knowledge in today's session. And in the tomorrow's session, we will meet with the topic called as inheritance and the types of inheritance. If time exists, we will go through the polymorphism also. And thank you very much for being patient and listening to the entire video. And we will meet you in the next session. Bye-bye.